Chapter 5. The First 100 Days, Overview. A good plan, violently executed now, is better than a perfect plan next week. General George S. Patton, Jr. When Franklin Delano Roosevelt took OFFICE on March 4, 1933, during the darkest and most desperate depths of the Great Depression, he revived a phrase born on February 26, 1815, when Napoleon returned to France from exile on Elba. For the next 100 days, he led a stunning military campaign to regain his conquest and throne. Napoleon single-handedly rebuilt an army of 250,000 and nearly succeeded in retaking his lost empire. Of course, it all ended badly for him 100 days later at the Battle of Waterloo on June 18, 1815, yet, the 100 days became a phrase that has continued to echo through history. FDR picked it up 118 years later and put it on himself. Immediately after his swearing-in, President Roosevelt summoned Congress to convene in a 3-month-plus special session, during which he presented and gained passage of 15 precedent-shattering, precedent-making bills, enacting programs aimed at gaining relief from the Great Depression. Goaded and guided by the President, Congress passed a grand total of 77 laws in 100 days. For those keeping score, that's 0.77 laws per day. It was all too necessary because the United States of America, like much of the world, had become what students of business catastrophe like to call a burning platform. Not everybody thinks everything FDR and Congress did in the 100 days was good, but even the critics and outright haters admit that something had to be done, and, to this day, the performance of each new occupant of the White House has been judged in some measure on what they achieved or failed to achieve in their first 100 days. I've never had presidential ambitions. If nominated, I will not run. If elected, I will not serve, but, as Roosevelt borrowed from Napoleon, I shamelessly took from Roosevelt when I was called on to serve as CEO of a platform that, while not yet aflame, had begun to smolder. I continually spoke of the first 100 days. I applied the first 100 days formula to Phoenix with great and growing success. This other company, let's call it Rolling Thunder Engineered Parts, needed even more urgent intervention. With the best of intentions, it had expanded, but it had done so without a coherent strategy and was thus in urgent need of 80/20th discipline. I worked with the talented executives and dedicated managers of the organization to develop a plan in which we outlined what we intended to do with the first 100 days of my administration. I called those first 100 days our stub year. They were all about getting ready. They began what I call, earn the right to grow. The 4 steps. I wasn't looking to pass 77 laws in 100 days. We just needed to take 4 steps forward in 100 days, a span of time in which we could begin to turn our business around. Step 1, set the goal. This first step, Chapter 6, is the easiest and hardest to accomplish. Size the prize. In private equity, many aim to get at least a 3x multiple on invested cash. Do the math to find what earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, EBITDA. You need to deliver that goal. My company's ambitious goal was to reach $2.3 billion in revenue with 19% margins and $300 million in EBITDA within 5 years. So, in the first minutes of the first 100 days, we articulated the goal of a 5-year plan. This, in turn, implied a more immediate goal, taking the steps necessary to turn the business around and positioning it to earn the right to grow. As I said later, during a company town hall, we will begin by simplifying our business. The executive team has reviewed what to stop, start, and continue doing immediately to get foundationally solid. We will communicate that shortly. I explained that we would collect and use data to determine where to simplify and grow the business. By determining where to raise prices to increase our bottom line, you and your team must quickly agree on your company's goal. Consider yourself blessed if a sponsor owns your company. Your goal would be found right in your contract. In our case, we needed a strategy that could deliver $400 million within our timeframe. If you don't want a planned failure, ensure the math works. Step 2. Create the strategy. The next step, Chapter 7, is to identify and build a strategy to achieve the new long-term. For us, it was a 5-year goal. Some companies think in terms of 3. Schedule the strategy meeting within 30 days of the Step 1 goal meeting. Since all had to happen so quickly, we relied on the 80-20 principle to identify the roughly 20% of what we were doing in our business that was producing 80% of our revenue. You should, too. The 80-20 rule lets you speedily separate what is working from what is not. You will want to gather your company's product and customer data immediately. Do not expect the data to tell you your strategy. You and your team must pick your strategy based on your goal. Unless you are dealing with a total dumpster fire, I strongly suggest you pick a strategy based on winning in your core. The data will not tell you your strategy, but it will tell you the best way to achieve your strategy. Going forward, your decisions must be based on this data-backed knowledge. Recognize that at the beginning, you may find yourself in a data puddle, an inch deep and a yard wide. It's still necessary to give clear direction to the team. Your most immediate message to the company should be something like this: we will have our new roadmap, our new growth-directed strategy, within the first 100 days. You are seeking progress, not perfection here. As the situation becomes clearer, you should expect to refine your strategy to take advantage of new knowledge. This is also the time to hold your second company town hall. Give the organization an update on where the team is on the journey. If possible, make this a live event where you can take questions. The boost the team will get with interaction and clarity will amaze you and your team. Step 3. Build the structure. It's been about 70 days, and a lot has happened. The team now has a clear goal and a new, albeit immature, strategy with clearly designated owners. Plus, you have held 2 company-wide town halls, which have kept everyone in the loop. Oh, and you've been running the business the whole time. Now comes the most challenging part. If you want to control your business within 100 days, you probably must reorganize the company. Chapter 8. Change is hard under the best of circumstances. It may even be gut-wrenching. People will get new jobs, and some may not have the right skill set. It's often been said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Prepare for a change. During the meeting, concentrate on how the business needs to be organized to achieve the strategy. Don't get hung up on which person will do what. This will add unnecessary complexity and bog the process down. Focus exclusively on structure by strategically segmenting to create great customers, innovate new products, and, most of all, meet your 3 to 5-year financial goal. The segments of the redesigned business should be organized in a rational structure. with provision for accountability for delivering your goals. Prepare to separate unlike businesses and put competent leadership in place to run them. Apply 80-20 to create segments that will direct your most productive resources to your most profitable customers, who buy your most profitable products. This will create the strategic growth needed to achieve the goals set in Step 1. Step 4. Launch the action plan. You made it. 100 days have passed, and it's time to launch the company-wide goal, strategy, and plan to achieve it. Having promised delivery of a new strategy capable of achieving the 5-year goal in the first 100 days, you sought to instill a bias for action in the organization. In my company, at our final town hall of the first 100 days, I said, we'll define the tactics and efforts to execute the plan. We won't wait for perfection here. We'll make sound, informed decisions and go. In effect, even before the end of the 100 days, we were putting together a rough draft action plan to allow us to make positive decisions and initiate needed actions as soon as possible. The watchword was progress, not perfection. The rough draft action plan must come together even as it is launched. Functional managers throughout the company must quickly put the action into action plans for executing the critical few objectives in their areas of responsibility. These plans must focus on the 20% of customers and 20% of products that produce 80% of the company's revenue. In parallel, upper-level executives must press ahead with the overall, long-term company-wide strategy. A working version of the strategy should be in place by the end of the first 100 days, but the full strategic management process, SMP, will require a year, a journey through all 4 reporting quarters, to bring to its first maturity. This is the process you should intend to ride the rest of the way to your 3 to 5 year goal. From fireside chat to town hall. The first 100 days is not self-executing, and it does not run on automatic pilot. Communication is at its heart. Franklin Roosevelt had his celebrated fireside chats, in which he talked to the American people in a frank and friendly manner via radio broadcast, sharing with them the government's short-term and long-term plans. Our company had town halls rather than fireside chats, in which executives and managers at all levels came together. The first town hall kicked off the first 100 days. At the end of month 1, we convened another town hall to review and measure our progress, monitor our course, and make any necessary corrections. As in the first town hall, the second half of the meeting was devoted to questions and answers. The third meeting came near the end of the first 100 days and coincided with the end of the first quarter, the regular occasion for reports and evaluation. In this way, the first 100 days merged naturally with the regular running of the business. Yet, unquestionably, everyone understood that, by this point, we had introduced something entirely new into the business, a complete strategy and process for a turnaround, intended to earn us the right to grow beyond the first 100 days. The first 100 days accommodate a 4-step process intended to set up the next full year in the context of a longer-term plan, often a 5-year plan, sometimes a 3-year plan. Now, since that plan evolves and changes during the first full year and over the entire 3 to 5 year span, you should not be focused narrowly on the 100 days before you. Or, rather, think of the time frame this way. 1. What you accomplish in the first 100 days must accurately aim and successfully launch an effort to earn the right to grow. This effort will be the focus of year 1 of a 5-year plan. The principal action in this first Year is applying 80 to 20 to simplify the business, returning to profitable basics, the 20% of inputs, products, customers, personnel, actions, initiatives, that produce 80% of your revenue. 2. If your launch is successful and your first year earns your company the right to grow, your second year will be dedicated to growing profitably by taking market share from the competition. This requires relentlessly applying 80-20 to ensure the company's focus on the critical few, products, customers, markets, personnel, and initiatives, in short, simplifying all the company's investment of resources to those inputs that will produce profitable growth. 3. Having begun to exercise the right to grow in year 2. The theme of year 3 is double down. You now have sufficient data to tell you what is and is not working. Invest in what is working. 4. Year 4 is a span in which to polish your success by fine-tuning all your processes to reduce waste and grow profits further. 5. Year 5 is the flywheel toward which the entire progressive growth OS is oriented. In many mechanical vehicles and devices, the flywheel is a weighted wheel that exploits the physical law of conservation of angular momentum to store rotational energy and thus optimize the machine's momentum to accelerate movement and or provide a reserve of available power that stabilizes the machine's operation and even keeps it moving despite temporary interruptions in external power. Translated to business activity, the flywheel is an incremental increase in efficiency that accelerates and sustains growth.